G'day and welcome to Don't Read the Comments, a show where I go and do exactly what the title says not to do. I go and read the comments about things relating to Doctor Who online. Tonight, doing a couple of different things. First, I'm on Reddit, which is a site we've not used for comments before on this show. And second, I'm not going to comment on the comments. I'm just going to read them and let the cards fall where they may. And no, that doesn't mean I have splinters in my ass from sitting on the fence. Tonight's topic is one that I've spoken about and Dave has spoken about on recent episodes, including the first of our hot takes for this new season. So our views aren't unknown to any of you. I thought it might just be interesting tonight just to read comments and let you hear what other Doctor Who fans are saying. Tonight's post is from Tanis8998, and the heading is, I'm starting to wonder if the problem might be me rather than the show. And it runs, I haven't really vibed with Doctor Who in a long while. The previous season did get my interest back a little with episodes like Dot and Bubble and 73 Yards, but the two-part finale really soured me on the show again, and I haven't felt much interest in it since it came back. I'm really starting to be bothered by two things. How fast and loose the series now plays with rules and logic now that, for completely silly reasons, things are completely fantastical and can exist and happen. I find myself endlessly saying, but why though? Why does that work? Why did that happen? Why is that not just completely arbitrary about things in the show? The other thing is the show's endless longevity just getting to me a little. I thought the Gatwa era was going to be a fresh start, but the show, more than ever, calls back to things that happened years ago and inherently expects me to both care and remember. The mixture of being both intensely self-referential, yet feeling blasé, and playing fast and loose with canon when it suits the show really makes me feel tired. Like I saw someone suggesting recently that Midnight and the most recent ep might not even take place in the same timeline because, quote, time can be rewritten, end quote. And my reaction was literally just like, can we just be done now? I don't know, maybe I'm getting older and the show suits me less, but I'm really not vibing with it anymore. Ian McInn, 77, replies, I maintain that no stretch of Doctor Who will be as good as the one that each fan sees inside their own head. A faithful Whovian says, to me, rules can be fantastical, but there must be an emotional justification. It has to be something that affects the Doctor or the companion to be worth the breaking of convention. Also, it's all right to be exhausted by the show because it is a mammoth. Everyone needs some time to step back and assess if they like it anymore. It's not a crime to realise it's not for you at the moment. That's when you rely on the back catalogue and remind yourself of what you do love. Proper Elephant 8751 says, a joke I say to my partner is, new Who fans have become now what old Who fans were like during 2005. Either you love it or you don't like it and think your era was better. And it's true, and there's also absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I myself have found myself at times going, New Who was better than this last season, and it made me chuckle because that's what old Who fans were like when the pacing of the show changed in 2005. It happens in the Star Trek fandom and the Star Wars one, and I think probably countless other fandoms from shows that have been on for years. And no doubt in 20 years' time, this era's main fans will be saying the same thing about the next era of Doctor Who. But like I said, nothing wrong with how you're feeling. It's natural. The revived era has been around for 20 years now. It's not expected of everyone to like every single episode or season. Educated Dinosaur says, I see where you're coming from, and while I agree the aspects you mentioned are a bit more pronounced in RTD2, I'd argue to some extent that Doctor Who has always been like this. I haven't watched a whole lot of classic, but the stories I've seen do have plenty of moments where canon is contradicted, something arbitrary happens that may or may not move the plot forward, etc. I think RTD toned down the silliness in that respect. Mind you, not the same as farting alien silliness in 05, because that matched the somewhat grungy, more down-to-earth aesthetic of the first few seasons of New Who. Instead, there's been plenty of callbacks and references to classic, which was great for old fans, but you could argue was even more anachronistic for new viewers than the 10th Doctor flashbacks we're getting occasionally now. I'm sorry the show isn't vibing for you right now, that is a bummer. I don't think you're crazy or wrong in saying RTD2 is different either. I like RTD2 for the most part. Just like any other era of Who, it feels like both the show to me, as well as doing its own thing, you know? Another no one says, I know where you're coming from. I have both feet firmly in the 50 and over age bracket now. I've been watching since 1979. My interest has waxed and waned over the years. It peaked again during RTD1, and as much as I love Moffat's era, it's never held my interest that much since. I had high hopes for RTD2, but to me it feels like there's something missing, and I've been a huge fan of every other piece of TV he's created over the years. It feels very much like a show for much younger people, although the showrunner is more in my demographic. I'm aware that the pop culture references fly over my head on occasion. I understand it needs to work with younger people for it to succeed and carry on, but I don't know if the viewing figures support that argument. I accept that it's just not the show for me that it once was. I imagine many fans who watched from the very beginning may have felt the same way during the JNT and Peter Davison era. It has always been a show that has moved with the times, and I'm way behind the times now. Karunios says, I mean this with great respect, but I think you've hit the nail on the head. A lot of people who are loudly proclaiming that Doctor Who is awful now are actually just not the target market. And that's okay, they can't please everyone. Each showrunner has their own ideas for where to go with the show, and no one is going to love everyone. For you to admit that it might not work for you, but might for others, takes a lot of intelligence. I gave up watching Doctor Who in the middle of 11's run because I wasn't vibing with it. I came back for 14, as I imagine a number did, because I always loved David Tennant as the Doctor. And by that point, I was engaging in extended Doctor Who stuff again with Big Finish. I've since continued to watch last series because I wanted to see Rogue, and then I was in the habit this series because I've been enjoying it, but always with the thought of, well, I can always go back to just Big Finish if I'm not having a good time. I understand that loving Doctor Who is often something deeply ingrained and can be hard to give up on, but one of the things I love most about the Whoniverse is that there is so much non-TV content available if you still want a Doctor Who fix but don't care for the show at the moment. Stopping watching new stories doesn't have to mean not at all engaging with Doctor Who content, which is wonderful. Tokyo from the Future says, the Disney Plus era has some evident flaws which I think anyone can notice. People who ignore the flaws and enjoy it for what it is have all the right to do so, but people who also notice and criticise those flaws equally have the right to do so. I thought it was weird how I haven't seen Ncuti properly in my eyes as the Doctor yet, and I didn't really know why, but after a rewatch, I think that the 15th Doctor has been quite mischaracterised from what the Doctor was before. Even though some episodes are fantastic, I can't bring myself to fully get sold that this is Doctor Who, because of how different the Doctor actually is. Simp Pimp says, I don't really vibe with it anymore either, and that's okay. I'm 46 and watched Doctor Who, reruns in the 80s and 90s, when I was young. Tom Baker was my favourite, and those episodes certainly were silly. Then the new series started, and it was great with 9, 10 and 11. Sure, they did Martha dirty, but Tennant and Tate were awesome, probably the best season of all. I don't really like River Song as a concept, but she's in some great, thrilling, edge-of-your-seat episodes. I kind of didn't feel it anymore with Capaldi, even though he was a great doctor and actor, but it became a bit too meta for me. I stopped watching for a bit in his last season. Loved Missy as the Master, but after it just sizzled out for me. I tried again with Whittaker. Really wished it would have done it for me, but she never got good writing. They did her dirty. Not least for the infantile outfit they put her in. Damn shame. Watched a few, couldn't do it. Didn't like it and felt it was a waste of time and a good actress. The Tennant return for the switch to Gatwa was fun but total fan service. Then watched the first 3 episodes of 15. It wasn't bad per se, but it felt so childish to me. The singing, the dancing, the crying. I love me a good musical, but I am not invested anymore. I really wanted to like it. I don't even mind something geared to kids. I love the Sarah Jane adventures. The writing and the storylines and the acting just fall flat for me. 9, 10, 11 were incredibly strong. 12 had ups and downs. 13 and 15 just isn't it for me anymore. I think it's too bad, but it wouldn't be the first series that completely lost the plot after so many seasons. Even though the cast is different after all these years, it's basically the same for Grey's Anatomy, I guess. Too bad. And let's end with Top Benefit 5594. I have a similar issue to you, and this is how I see it. I'm a millennial, and I was 3 when Doctor Who was cancelled, so I never really saw much of the classic series, as the BBC seemed loath to repeat it. However, I did get super into it via novelisations, which were freely available, and I had the Daleks on VHS. The TV movie was a big deal, although obviously didn't quite hit. I was a big fan. I could name all the Doctors and knew a lot about the show, but I couldn't watch a lot of it. So when RTD brought it back, I was very excited. New episodes I could watch along with other fans. The visual effects would at least be something modern. It was styled after Buffy, which I also loved. And then it aired, and I was super into it, mostly, but there were parts of RTD's style that rankled, especially his tendency towards Deus Ex Machina, but also the occasional episode that was just noisy running around the set to unnecessarily loud music. Still, I mostly enjoyed it, and I looked forward to it every week. The episodes I enjoyed most were the Moffat ones, so I was excited when he took over, and I dig the vibe more with Moffat than I do with RTD, but his show running still wasn't up to the level that I expected. Chibnall? Well, I never liked his scripts as a writer before, but I appreciated some of his work, not most of it though. All of that is to say that when RTD2 was announced, I thought, well, the show's been stale under Chibnall. COVID effed it about, let's have a fresh start. And I also thought RTD has had nearly 20 years to hone his craft. Everyone said he was a great writer before, so now, after a couple of decades and getting years and years, and It's a Sin under his belt, he'll probably realise what's wrong with his first run on Who, and this will be amazing, right? And it's not the same. I was forced to confront the realisation that what I didn't like about RTD's approach to Who is just how he thinks Who should be. It wasn't an accident or inexperience the first time, and he isn't going to change or evolve to please me. And there we go. There's a lot more comments in this thread, particularly people replying to people. I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. But in terms of fans talking about the topic of starting to wonder if the problem, might be with them rather than the show, I think that's some pretty honest feedback. And given the ratings of the show, I think that while there are people out there loving it, there are a lot of people who have turned off, and we've heard some of their stories here tonight, I think. Anyway, I promise no commentary from me, so that's all I'll say. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Don't Read the Comments. We'll be back tomorrow with our slightly late hot take on the next episode of Doctor Who, called Lucky Day. See you then.